Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for attending. Let's get started here. Good evening. Thank you for being with us at Odessa College. We're here to listen to our guest, Noel Quinones, and listen to his stories. We hope that Noel's words will inspire you. Buenas noches, and gracias por estar con nosotros en Odessa College. Estamos aquí para aprender de nuestro invitado Noel Quinones en escuchar sus historias. Esperamos que las palabras de Noel te inspiren. We'd like to say thank you to Odessa administration for being here, the admin. We have several board members here. Thank you, guests and students. Gracias por tu tiempo. Noel is an Emmy award-winning Puerto Rican writer, educator, and community organizer from the Bronx. He has performed on several stages across the country, including the Lincoln Center, Harvard University, BAM, and the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Stanford University, and the Honolulu Museum of Art. His work has been showcased on the Huffington Post, Vibe, Tidal Music, Latina Magazine, Medium, Univision, Remezcal, Me Too, and elsewhere. He is the founder of the Project X, a Bronx-based art organization, a 40 Under 40 Rising Latino Star recipient, and a member of the 2019 Intercultural Leadership Institute cohort. He is a 2022 graduate of the University of Mississippi with a master's in fine arts and currently teaches English literature at San Francisco University High School. He believes in the complexity of identity, the necessity of service, learning, and civic engagement, and interconnectedness in all its forms. It is my pleasure to introduce Noel Quinones. Please, por favor, un gran aplauso.
Just want to make sure this one, y'all can hear me? Okay, fantastic, amazing. Here we go. Ooh. The scientists say the closest living ethnicity to the perfect human being is Puerto Rican. Pues, mi papi says, don't tell me something I already know. And mi mami, with one hand, says, no me diga. And with the other, calls los tíos y las tías, and I told lo primo, and we screamed, huepa! Forgetting that word can either mean someone made a mistake or it's time to celebrate. What a word, to pull itself in two different directions, a branch to the sky and a root to the earth. Aren't we always trying to bridge impossible history? And everyone wonders why Puerto Ricans never let you forget that they are Puerto Rican. You ever feel the tombstones break open in your stomach and your ancestors' words climb out as if you've been digesting 206 bones for centuries? But I don't say that. I say, vete pa'l carajo, because that's how we said we were perfect before science figured it out. The last time science gave us anything, it was a eugenics masquerade, a celebration of mistakes. Puerto Rican babies thrown in the sky, their mothers scrubbing red confetti off the dance floor a century later. They want to tell us we are the nearest neighbors to the perfect genetic makeup. Huepa, for the word that taught my people to celebrate in the darkest roots of mistakes. Huepa, for every time a stranger asks, no, where are you really from? Say colonization made a mistake, but oh papi, you can celebrate all of this anyway. Huepa, for the African diaspora, for the black Boricua, for the indigenous Taino, for my classrooms in South Africa were purposefully shattered Bibles. The way the words Latino and colored were just cross words to hang a stranger's God upon. And I don't want whatever resurrected that day. This day, my God exists for when strangers say, isn't Ancestry.com enough? Nah. We have family trees, plural. Say the ceiba tree and the poplar tree are two lovers who lost each other across the ocean for so long. Strangers had to tell them what became of their children, and everyone wonders why our feet speak spiritual, that Espiritu Santo. all chained throat for the day we left El Campo. My father calls it Puerto Rico's progress. Chapped lips for the colonizer savior complex, salivating over boats, Bibles, and goddamn science. The reason I carry my ancestors' tombstones in my belly and let each bone fly like a campesino's machete. Every poem about Puerto Rico is false tongue confetti, a failed God metaphor to make your Jesus' heart feel heavy. How I must perform my heaven while yours is perfect with no science to prove it. You ever feel a stranger break you open, tell you no God at all? I say yokahu. I say praise. Praise this. Thanks, y'all. What's up, what's up, what's up? My name is Noel Quinones. I'm really, really excited to be here with y'all in Odessa College. I do a lot of things. I got a lot of jobs. I work too much. I'm really tired all the time. But what I do is that I travel the country, the world, and I perform and I give talks about identity, about the history of oral traditions, about poetry, about empathy, and about teaching. And so I'm very blessed to be here as someone who was able to pursue the thing that I love, right, in a myriad of ways. And so what I want to do here with y'all is to give you this talk, this conversation, and I want to share some stories with y'all, and I hope that you enjoy what I'm sharing. And my super secret goal that you'll never figure out is that I hope that at some point you think about sharing your own story and think about how this might connect to you as students at this really fantastic amazing college. And so the name of this talk is In Ceremony, Storytelling, Bomba, and where is it? Oh, that's me. It's not there anymore. That's why we got slides. In Ceremony, Storytelling, Bomba, and Empathy. And so I hope that you enjoy this journey and hear some poems. I don't know if some of y'all are poets, but I hope you dig what I'm putting down. So, everywhere I go, I bring my people with me. I'm from the Bronx, born and raised. I've lived all over the place. My family is very, very proudly Puerto Rican, and I shared with you in that poem my favorite word. But before we get to that, we have to go over some really important context for this poem. So here's one. There was a scientific article that came out. This is real. A scientific article came out, and it was these scientists at, like, I don't know, Stanford, Harvard, one of those big colleges. And they basically tested a bunch of different people, different ethnicities, their DNA, trying to figure out who is the perfect human. And what they meant by that was, like, basically who had a bunch of different DNA mixed together. I don't know. It was not very credible. And this science experiment, article, came out, and it said that it was Puerto Ricans. Now, you heard them right here. You can't tell Puerto Ricans that they're perfect. That's very dangerous. And here's the thing. Here's the other kicker. This article came out at Christmas. Puerto Ricans love Christmas. So I'm going to lay this out for you, right? I go to Christmas to hang out with my family in the Bronx. Everybody's already heard about this article. I go, my Theo's already drunk, and he's just like, hey, ya tú sabes. You know, I didn't need nobody to tell me, but we're perfect. I don't know if you heard, right? So my cousins, my grandparents, my mom, my dad, everybody's wilding. Just really, really wilding, right? From this information. But me, as a poet, right, thinking about stories, I wanted to think about this a little deeper, right? I'm like, okay, if scientists want to say this about Puerto Ricans, what does it mean that that is not the experience that my family has had, right? Ain't nobody treating us like we're perfect in the Bronx. Nobody is looking at us in this way, and yet science gets to say that inside we got this great DNA, but outside it's all discrimination, right? It's all disrespect. And so that brings me to my favorite word that I want to share with y'all, and that word is the best word in any language. That word is huepa. Here's the thing about huepa. You can't just say huepa. You have to feel huepa. You'll get it. Ask a Puerto Rican. And so together, I would love if on the count of three, we could just do a huepa together. How do you feel about that? That's, see, where's that? And y'all need to listen. All right, on the count of three, we're gonna do a huepa together. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Amazing, fantastic. So, if you were listening, huepa has two definitions at the same time. And I'm an English teacher, love that, right? Two definitions at the same time. The first definition is to celebrate, right? To celebrate. And the other definition is to acknowledge a mistake. So I'll let you know. All right. So let's say that I walked up into the Christmas party with my family and my cousins are already dancing salsa, killing it. I'm just like, at the door. I'm like, wepa, damn, this party's lit. It's popping, right? You're celebrating. Also, you should always celebrate the small things. So let's say that you go to the HEB. I'm not from here. Yeah, you like that. I've been studying. Right, you go to HEB and your favorite bag of chips is actually half off. Wepa, right? Got to celebrate the small things, right? And at the same time, it means to acknowledge mistakes. So for example, if my abuela just cooked me an amazing meal, right? She made arroz y habichuela, some bistec encebollado. I'm really excited. It's my favorite. I pick up this dish and I walk into the living room and I accidentally trip and I spill that food on her carpet. And she looks up at me and she says, wepa, which really means dumbass, right? In that context, right? She's just like, you just messed up my carpet. What's wrong with you, right? And so in this way, I'm fascinated by this word, wepa. That means these two things at the same time. And so I've taken wepa to heart as a way to start to understand what it means to be a person in the world, right? So when we think about telling stories, it's important that we always think about how are we saying the positive stuff as well as acknowledging mistakes. So this didn't happen here, but pretty much way too often I get invited to colleges for Hispanic Heritage Month. And somebody pretty much always comes up to me and they say, all right, can you just do the happy stuff? You know, talk about the food, do the little dance that y'all do. And we don't want anything sad. We don't want anything too heavy, right? The celebratory event, we want to be happy, right? And I hate when people say that to me. Y'all didn't say that. That's great. Good job, Odessa College. I hate when they say that to me because that's not the truth, right? The truth is complex. When I think about wepa, I think about the fact that I have to think about and celebrate my own people at the same time that I acknowledge the negative things, right? So at the same time that I gotta say that Bad Bunny is out here killing it, revolutionizing reggaeton, I have to also acknowledge that Hurricane Maria devastated the island. At the same time that I want to think about the beautiful history of music and the amazing kind of cultural productions that New York Puerto Ricans have made, I have to acknowledge the Ponce Massacre. I have to acknowledge the gag law that America put in place that Puerto Ricans could not show their flag or they would go to jail. And so in this way, I try my best to live wepa, to say how am I telling stories and showing up fully as myself, in that I say that this is the stuff that we could celebrate, but you can't get that unless you also know the bad shit that's also happened, so that we can improve and build on ourselves and try to be a little bit more honest with each other. And so what I do here is not new. I just learned a little bit about the whole basin thing. It's fine, right? I bring that up to say that here's the truth, right? Indigenous communities all across the world, doesn't matter what continent, doesn't matter what country, there weren't countries back then, were built on oral traditions, right? People sitting around a fire and telling stories. These stories were not just about entertaining people, they were also about keeping histories, conveying information, saying, hey, this is what you should know, this is the way to get home, this is where to get water, this is what's important to our community. And so what I do here is that same thing, right? Spoken word is just a continuation. It's something that demands to be heard out loud or witnessed in person. I had a fantastic conversation this morning with Dr. Williams, and we were talking about what's the difference between hip hop, rap, and spoken word, right? And the difference comes down to this idea of performance, of community, right? Hip hop was started as a collaboration between MCs, DJs, graffiti artists, breakdancers, right? And rap kind of cuts out some people to say, here's just the MC, and not all the time do you have to see that MC, right? But spoken word kind of necessitates that third dimension, where you also get to see me, hear that, and something magical happens. I don't know what it is, but I look you in the eye, and I already did it for that first poem, and it freaks people out. They're like, whoa, are you saying this to me? And I'm like, a little bit, yeah. So that I hope you hear and see what I'm saying. All right. Y'all good? Another poem? Maybe. Yeah, there you go. We're getting there. We're gonna get there. You know, I'll give y'all a public speaking class soon. I promise. All right. So here's your job. This poem has 15 different voices. Up to you to figure out who they are, where they come from. This is all true stuff that's been said to me. Perdóname. Is this enough to barter for that American tongue? I heard it can carve the memory out of anything until your throat calls the knife father. I heard you like the way it speaks English. I tried to steal it once, but my family got there first. Nene, when are you gonna cut your hair? You know we left the Bronx for a reason, and now you want to look like them? What did we tell you about stealing? Next thing you know, you have cornrows, and if you're gonna get cornrows, I'll never speak your name in this house again. Of course I know Puerto Ricans come from Africa. I know that. That's why we frame the history of our last name on the wall. It has our family crest from Spain. Isn't it bright and beautiful and half a bloodbath's amnesia? Remember how important it is to know all of your history? Heard you're calling yourself Afro-Latino now. How's that working out for you? It's just confusing. I just don't know where all this black stuff came from. It's so sudden. You didn't grow up like that, right? I mean, I'm just baffled. Can you even prove it? Prove it? Prove it? You ever been baffled by your own Spanglish? How it tries to lick the moon clean of its grays, knows how hard it is to be a smudge shade instead of a real color, real, yo. You can't really be black if you speak Spanish, man. But let me tell you something, you can say the N-word as long as you say it with a Spanish accent. Oh my God. I love it when you speak Spanish to me. Please speak Spanish to me. Please speak Spanish to me. Please speak Spanish. Well, I'm not fluent. I'm still learning. Then just a sentence or a word. How do you say love? Isn't it amor, more? Tell me more. My friends call you my Latin lover. That's cool with you, right? It's just a joke that replaced your name. You're just a phase. My brother said he saw you eating tacos on the Discovery Channel. It's like they own you now, but he's not racist. Every day since we've been together, I ask myself, where did you come from? Where did you come from? Where did you come from? You should go back to where you came from. Where are you going to take me now? Is it going to be somewhere ethnic? The New Rican Poets Cafe? Are all your friends going to be there? Whoa. It's like no one speaks Spanish here. Didn't your people build this place? What? No, sorry, what'd you say? Are you trying to tell me something? Are you trying to communicate with me? The first word of your poem was in Spanish, so I tuned you out. Thanks, John. So here's what I often get told, right? I say that there's 15 different voices in that poem, and pretty much the usual response I get is like, yo, those 15 white people were wildin'. Can't believe they said that to you, right? These 15 different voices are family members, co-workers, cousins, friends, partners, right? Strangers in the street. And so in this way, our story is never just our story, right? And so I like to think of it in these three ways, right? You have the world, the mirror, and the mind. Whenever we think about who we are and how we show up in the world, obviously it's about who we think we are in our mind, how we believe that we identify, how we want to show up in the world, what we see in the mirror. And that is constantly butting up against everybody else's perception of who and how they see themselves, right? The world. And so in this way, my identity has never been something that I could just claim and understand because everybody else has an opinion about it. And I know you know what that feels like because everybody does it to everybody. And so what I do is I try to have us understand that this is not uncommon because what's happening here is incredibly complex. They call it an identity crisis for a reason, right? The crisis is an emergency, right? It's literally what happens to all of us at different points in our life. It's when our perception of ourselves butts up against what other people believe we should be, what we look like to them, what they think that we should be able to do, whether they can let us through the door or not of a certain identifier, right? And so what I try to say is that these things are so complex, and here's the thing with humans, if something is complex, then it's scary, and what do? We get the hell out of there. We don't like hard stuff. We don't like tough conversations, right? But it's the only way that we can build empathy. It's the only way, by having hard conversations about who we believe we are and how that connects to other people around us, right? And so what ends up happening, well, I don't want to do that. Sorry, it's poem time. Cool with another poem? Yeah, nice. Now we're getting there. You're holding down, bro. Yeah, bro, for real. Yeah, all right. All right. 8 confessions of my tongue. 1, I have snuck past the borders of another mouth today, made an accent taste like kinship, and watched myself drown in false comfort. There is always a countdown when you realize I am not fluent in Spanish. You expected the waterfall, the spit that crossed the ocean, the syllable suffocating dance, and it is a dance. This moving, weaving, searching, turning your back on what you can never keep up with. I contain so much sad brown mouth that I can't even pronounce Quinones without a stranger examining the air it took to learn it too. Everything here is a thievius memory, a hungry thing gobbling itself into existence. I listen to Daddy Yankee, Ivy Queen, Tego Calderon, make a bastion for reggaeton in my throat, but can't tell you what the songs mean. I think volume equates to knowledge, but I'm always the last one to yell wepa. Forever late to my own identity. 3, my skin is a countryless serpent. They whisper of my fraud on the block and in the classroom, but all I have are these 2 false skins stitched into a name I've worn. So many of my family members' stories that I confuse their history for mine. 4, I can't remember the last time I didn't use Google Translate to prove myself to a poem. 5, this means I am not as fluent as my poems. They are an imagined Latinidad, where I touch the shore and it accepts me, where my grandmother wasn't spit on every day for not knowing English, and you can see it in my father's amnesia. When I ask him about our indigenous language, and he laughs, 6,000 dead bodies onto the dinner table. 6, I practice a self-torture in the mirror, mimic whatever words I stole to make myself a more Latin thing. Cambiará. Servilleta, compañero, my skin, always mistaken for home, my last name, an invitation to strangers who say, your parents should have taught you. But my parents say it's my fault. And I remember the first time I asked for help, when to use por y para in a sentence, and they said, you just feel it. You're just supposed to feel it. 7, I don't. 8, my tongue is a gringo's last hope, a stutter beneath a foreign accent mark, a transcontinental thing stuck in its own ocean, and so I flood Quinones onto my grandmother's lap. Que vergüenza, she says. Now you don't belong anywhere. So I'm very blessed that poem went viral on YouTube. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views on this poem. And so I wrote that poem from a very specific place. This was my lived experience, right? Growing up as a Puerto Rican in New York. My family did not teach me Spanish because specifically my grandmother, when she immigrated from Puerto Rico to New York, was spit on by other people in the street because she didn't understand English. And so in her mind, she said, okay, for my grandson to not be spit on, he needs to just know English. I'm helping him. I'm protecting him, right? And so I didn't get that. But at the same time, my family called me a gringo. They said, hey, you're not actually Puerto Rican. You don't know how to speak this language, right? And so this was something I was carrying, and I was like, let me put this into a poem and perform it. And so my expectation was that, I got very blessed that somebody recorded this poem, put it on YouTube, and I was like, all right, I'm probably going to get some messages from Puerto Ricans. They're going to say, hey, I really see that, I feel that, thank you, right? And then even I was like, maybe I'll get some messages from other people from other Spanish-speaking countries. And the wildest stuff happened. I got messages from people in Australia, people in Ghana, people in Canada, all saying the same thing. They were like, I was not taught my family's language, and I feel you. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for talking about this really important thing that nobody else was talking about. And so what ends up happening is that when we think about cultural assets, right, we're like, here are the things that make you a part of a certain identity. For me, it's do you know Spanish? Do you know how to dance salsa? Can you cook this dish, right? And so often we say, all right, if you don't know those things, you ain't allowed here. Get out. You're not welcome. And yet and so we turn cultural assets, things that are important that we should want to do, right? That we should want to learn about and engage with. We turn them into currencies. We say, actually, this is your payment at the door to get in here, right? And if you don't, we're gonna make fun of you forever. My cousins still rag on me, right? And so it's that question of, if we are all experiencing this, if everybody is finding out ways to bar you from certain identities, why are we still doing it to each other? How are we making a doorway so that if someone wants to learn or engage in a certain identity, how do we build that communication? How do we build that relationship across differences and across backgrounds, right? And again, it comes back to this idea of storytelling, right, of building. And so I was really, I had a revelation, right? I was like, all right, I'm an adult now. It's no longer my family's fault that I don't know Spanish. I got to take that up on my own. And so I moved myself, after I graduated from my master's program, I moved myself to Puerto Rico. And I went to live there for 9 months. I lived in Vieques, which is a smaller island off the main island, and then in San Juan, the capital. And I worked, right? I reconnected with my family, with my people, with my language on my own terms. And I started to understand and build that relationship, right? To try to hope to understand, to build just a better understanding of myself and hopefully acceptance. And what I found was that it was kind of a roller coaster, right? It wasn't all good and it wasn't all bad, but that's what makes it wepa. So what do I do across the country? If you really had to like distill it down, I look everybody in the eye, not all of you, we don't have time for that, but I look y'all in the eye, right? And I say, you are enough, right? I don't know what y'all struggling with, I don't know what you're going through, but you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Just give this person an award, bro. Right? So I do this work, and you might think, I talk to a lot of young people, but the thing is that adults need to hear this just as much, right? Just as much. It is not barred by age. There are all these different ways that we cut each other off from feeling like we are enough, from feeling like we can actually show up, right? And so I want to share some concrete things that y'all could do, right? So like I said, I'm an educator. I was previously, I've been an administrator. I've taught college. I've taught high school. I'm currently teaching English literature in a high school. And I'm a big fan of this amazing thought leader, professor, speaker. Her name is Brené Brown, and she has 4 qualities of empathy. How can we build empathy with each other, right? And the first one is perspective taking. Just thinking about what does it mean to be in somebody else's shoes, right? The second one, the hardest one for humans, avoiding judgment. We love judging people, especially because of social media, right? We don't even need any of the repercussions to judge anybody these days. You could just scroll and be like, those shoes are whack, bro, right? Really hard. The third one is recognizing emotion in others. This is the really hard one that social media is cutting into, right? The fact that we can't look each other in the eyes to see, is that person hurting? Is that person going through something? How can I make it so that I'm actually being attuned to that, right? Which leads us to the fourth one, is just communicating that recognition. I see that you're hurting, bro. How can I maybe just listen to what you're going through, listen to your story, and hopefully build a connection and build empathy in these important ways, right? And so I try my best to carry these 4 things with me as we start to think about what this actually looks like, right? And so for me, I found that again in a very, very Puerto Rican institution, I don't want to use that word actually, a very important Puerto Rican cultural heritage, right? So bomba is a Puerto Rican music form that came from West Africa, right? And when it was brought to the Caribbean, sadly because of the transatlantic slave trade, right? African peoples were barred from engaging in it, right? The Spanish colonial system said, you can't dance that, you can't do that here. And so they had to hide it, right? And thankfully they did, and it survived. And now bomba is a flourishing dance form, right, in Puerto Rico and in other islands. And the beautiful thing about bomba is that bomba cannot happen with just one group. Bomba necessitates 3 groups. You need a dancer, you need drummers, and you need the audience. You need the drummer, you need the dancer, and you need the audience. If you don't have one of those things, you can't have bomba. And so in the same way as hip hop, right, you cannot have it when you don't have community, when you don't have people interacting and building with each other, right? And so bomba is a way of understanding the necessity of building empathy by having conversations with other people, whether that conversation is through art or through speaking or through body language, right? And so bomba is actually a really important way for us to think about empathy in a way that connects to, again, my story and my people. And there are examples of this all across the world, right? Ways in which we talk to each other in these distinct ways. Because I don't really like, especially, I'm an English literature teacher, but everybody likes to think, oh, language is the best communicator. It's the best way that we communicate, right? We did not start as a species with language, right? We engage through our bodies, right? Through signals, through emotions, through how we saw each other, right? And the more that we understand that sometimes language fails us, that I'm going through something and I don't even know how to convey it to you, the better that we can build, right? And the better that we can understand that these things are connected, right? So I want to share, this is my only page poem. So what we say in the slam poetry community, whenever somebody brings out something that they just wrote or something new, right? Everybody in the audience yells, new shit. And so I'm gonna give y'all that. Wait, raise your hand if you've been to a poetry slam. Anybody been to a, okay. All right, a few people, poetry slam. You should go to a poetry slam, it's really awesome, right? So on the count of 3, just because I brought out the fresh paper, right? The old fashioned style, right? On the count of 3, you're just gonna yell new shit. All right, 1, 2, 3. New shit! Boom, there you go. It was really right here, but I guess that's okay, it's fine. So, y'all are ready to go to a slam. You could go to a poetry slam now, I promise, you're ready. So, I grew up, like I told y'all, in the Bronx, and I want to share a story about my friends from middle school, which are just a bunch of kids just wilding in the Bronx, doing silly stuff and hanging out, and how important that was for me. And so if you know what a time capsule is, it's when a bunch of people get together, they get a box, a metal box usually, you put a bunch of stuff in it, you bury it, and then you dig it up, I don't know, however much time later, right? So there's a time capsule in the Bronx with all my middle school friends' stuff in it, and we forgot where it is. Maybe somebody will find it, I don't know, I hope. Somebody will find it one day. I know the 3 different parks it could be. It was also illegal to dig in a park, but we didn't care. So, the time capsule. I need you to know we laughed, rib choked, cement knelt, blood bellowing and bat screeches captured in a bottle right there. It was like electricity. When language failed us, AOL Instant Messenger didn't, and we buried the first screen names we ever embarrassed the world with. I want you to know Jazzy had the sickest bedroom as Allison laid upside down, ears red rushed and bopping to J-Lo's This Is Me Now, autographed because she climbed on top of a New York One news van and yelled, "Hey, yo, Castle Hill, sign my shit," at the last FYE in Jerome Ave. I need you to know David traded me his blue eyes white dragon for nothing, then sat at dog shit park for the entire summer beating me and beating me and beating me until I learned how to win the game. You must know the day that Joel drew a map of Norwood, it opened a metal grate on East 207th that I still can't close. Know this, the legends are not exaggerated. We ruled the Bronx with nothing but laser tag guns and super soakers. AJ really did get an orange belt in Taekwondo, and he really did whoop all our asses. And his Timbs really are still hanging from some tree at the last park where we said truce and walked away. You gotta believe that we dipped our Beyblades in holy water, and when they shattered, we wrote down the true definition of quiet. You gotta know Angel trusted me with his life, and if you time adapt just right, you can melt a shoulder blade into a feather. Trust, I know the cruelty of nostalgia. I don't say this lightly. We buried something, a Jabberwocky, dark matter, spear of destiny. I can't explain it, but if you ever find yourself hype off a Wednesday afternoon dismissal, $1 short of taking the bus to the mall, I need you to follow the map and dig and dig and dig, and when you hit metal, open it. I didn't even plan to click that. And I have just one more poem for y'all. This quote says, if you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. I'm not into that savior complex stuff. I'm not trying to show up at communities and say, I know what's best for you, let me help you, I know more, right? I'm trying to show up and say, tell me something about yourself. Tell me your story. Let me listen, and let me share mine, and hopefully we can build something together. I hope that y'all understand that no matter what discipline or subject you are studying here, that once you leave, you think about who are your people and how you can help them. I hope that you ask these questions. What skills do you have and how can you help? Who are my people and how do I remember and carry where I come from? I don't know if that's Odessa, I don't know if that's Texas, but I want you to do that work, because it's so, so important that we remember where we come from and how we can use our skills that we're gaining in this fantastic school that y'all have to help other people. Too soon. And so I'm gonna leave y'all with this last poem. This is one of my favorite poems. This poem is a history of the Bronx. It's a history of hip hop. If you have not watched the TV show on Netflix called The Get Down, you should really watch it. It's a really important TV show about the history of hip hop, but that is the name of this poem. And then after that, I think we have some time for a Q&A, because I would love to hear from y'all, because I've been talking too much. All right, cool, last poem. For the get down, because I don't give a fuck about your faults or mishappenings. I'm from the Bronx, New York. Shit happens like asthmatics who dream of lungs so classic they never forget to pronounce our names with our accents. My chest, a language erratic. So many years coughing made a coffin full of static. Lower it into the Bronx and say amen for those who lost access, all this poison in the air. More people died here than the Titanic, and you always asking why this rap stuff sounded so dramatic. We were the first failed economy this side of the Atlantic. Taught the whole world how to loop themselves properly. Now you're screaming you're welcome because you owning all the property. Between my right canine and a never-ending modesty. Just because every few decades you acknowledge me, nah. I'm a Cedric Ave prodigy, Bronx-bred alchemy. Bomba and hip-hop can't pull one genre out of me. I'm honestly so tired of your money-making policies. We got advertising. Abuela screaming from the balconies. We got a fan base. Ain't you heard of the last colonies? This stuff spreads like bochinche from the Cross Bronx to the West Coast. Got the viejo saying, nene, ¿qué es esto, ah? Que dijiste el mister, no tiene hip hop en la isla, pero tiene revolución en la glita. But all y'all wanna hear is hip hop is lit, like my borough wasn't the first lighter. The Bronx been burning and you're all prone to Alzheimer's. Took a damn Netflix show to prove my borough hasn't had writers. Since every single thing around us is on fire. Since Robert Moses came to burn us down to a pyre of rubble and ash, and here comes a gentrifier, but ain't no one ever come to our aid, you all liars. Since day one, I heard spread love, it's the Brooklyn way. But my borough seen nothing from a Brooklyn day or a Compton play to the spread of LA. And what you gotta say, you paid homage to your viejos like yesterday? But forgot where your damn granddaddy stayed? I heard he gives out bendiciones, grew up in Ponce. Moved with a dream, 2 kids and a baby. On the block wins dominos like all day, but his kids, they connect the sound to Atabe. Huracán, Yokahu, Africa, y Yashe. Starts writing and rhyming, screaming, yo tengo hambre. Y no me importa su barrio a su boca, escucha rappers en todo los idioma, but I don't rap in Spanish. I just rap savage. From the days of the black spades to Zulu Nation status. My borough gave you everything and still don't have advantages, and still struggle for passages, and still kill ourselves just to find out where the balance is. And that's why my father yells that he ain't never coming back. And he ain't never come back. But I will be back. Say, I will be back. Say, I will be back. Thanks so much, y'all.
Yeah, there we go. We'll see. Oh, you have a few. All right. Who wants to go first? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question as someone who is, I did a little bit of public speaking a couple months ago, but I am still kind of like nervous thinking about being in the position to do it again, like even like right now. So what advice can you give to someone like me who wants to overcome that and build like my confidence public speaking?
Yeah, great question. What I like to tell people is that most people can't tell, but I'm nervous every single time. This is 16 years that I've been performing in front of people, and I get the sweats. I start shaking every time, right? You saw me earlier, and so my advice is that nervousness is not something bad. Right? What my coaches and my mentors, because I've been coached by a lot of slam poets, spoken word people, is that nervousness is just energy, right? And if you've taken a science class, which y'all all have, right? Energy is transferable. And so it's using that fear and that nervousness and transferring it into something that I can give to y'all. So it's actually doing one of the hardest things, is my advice, which is let the nervousness and the fear come over you and just transfer it back to the audience, right? It's normal, but you have to get through it. If you try to stop it, then you're not going to actually get past it.
Thank you.
Great question. Great question. Another one?
Yes. Okay. Right there? Okay. I'm part of Positively OC, and what we do is we spread positivity around our school and community. And do you have any words of advice for us to improve? And do you do anything specifically where you spread positivity?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the second question, right? So the way that I try to spread positivity, right, is saying that everybody has access to the exact same things that got me here, right? You got a brain, you got a pen or a pencil, and you got a piece of paper, right? And so I hope that you can share and write some of your stories, right? The trick is that if you start writing in like high school as a teenager, it's usually like, I was writing some real dark, sad poetry in those early years. But it's got me to a place where I can say, okay, I'm trying to write about all these different things, right? And so another connection for that, to go to your second question, is I believe really, really strongly in interviews. is how are you interviewing other people about who they are, right? And so if I had a suggestion, there's this fantastic podcast by Gabby Rivera. She's a Puerto Rican writer. And it's called The Joy Podcast. And she just goes up to people and she says, what makes you happy? What makes you joyful, right? And then she just makes an archive of all that information. And so I think it's sometimes as simple as just asking people like, why'd you get out of bed today, right? What's the song that's been bumping in your head, right? What's this really nice thing that somebody did for you this week? And I think it could be as simple as that.
Thank you. One more?
Okay. I don't know if this question's gonna make sense, so bear with me. But what is your why? Why do you do stuff like this?
That's a good question. What is my why? Nothing, to me, nothing feels like what this feels like. Just like, again, confronting the fear, the nervousness, and like talking in front of so many people, getting to meet new people, right? Like I said, I've toured all over the country. I think I'm sitting at I've been to 38 states out of 50 as of right now, right? And my why is just meeting people. I meet people from all over the place, from different regions of the country who share all these new and dope, amazing stuff with me. And the other side of it is I've been a teacher my whole life. I said this earlier to the other group I spoke to, but my mom just retired, 30 years, teaching second grade in the South Bronx. And so I was raised by a teacher, and I just love teaching. There's something really special about talking to people and teaching them. And it doesn't matter the age group for me either, even though college, high school is my favorite age group. But that's the why.
You have a question? Yeah.
How long does it take you to memorize your new shit?
Yeah. Good question. So, I like to think memorization is a muscle, right? And so just like, y'all are all athletes, you know how that works, right? Again, I've been doing this 16 years. It used to take me so long to memorize a piece, and now I can memorize a 3-minute poem, which is about a page and a half, in probably a day, maybe less. And I have my tricks, right? I print it, tape it on the wall, and just keep going again and again and again. Also, I record it and then play it on my headphones all day too, just to play it back. But I've gotten really, really good at it, but it was not like that. It used to take weeks and weeks for me to memorize a poem. And these, you're seeing ones that are I've to a T. I could do this in my, say it in my sleep now. I've done it so many times.
Great question. Anyone else? Oh, beautiful. Yes. I'll get to you, Coach. Go ahead.
Stop. I want to be a high school teacher. I don't know if you said you worked with high school students, but what's your advice for working with that age group?
Yeah, fantastic question. So yeah, I'm currently teaching high school. I've taught high school collectively for 5 years. I love teaching high school. My advice for working with high schoolers is that you have to be as excited about the thing, you have to be more excited about the thing you're teaching than all the students combined. So what's really good for me is that the same skill set that I use to perform, I do the same thing in the classroom. Teaching is a performance, right? It's a way of showing up into the class and saying, this is how I'm trying to convince these people of something, right? And once you get somebody with the right hook, it's like magic. It's like once they see that entryway, you can take them where they want to go, right? And I believe really strongly too in asking my students, what do you want to learn? How do you want to learn, right? What works best for you? And in that way you get some buy-in, right? Because it's really hard to just show up and be like, I'm teaching you this thing, you don't have a say in it. High schoolers hate that. So my suggestion is really being extra excited and practicing, right? It's public speaking, right? For sure, just in a smaller environment. Good, thank you we need more teachers. We need more high school teachers.
I'm Coach Q, so I have a question for you. I'm right here. Yeah, I'll stand up. I know I'm short. I have a question for you. You hip hop, so tell me when you fell in love with hip hop.
When I fell in love with hip hop?
with hip hop? The song, the very moment when you fell in love with. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, easy. Right? Is it 10th? I think it was 10th grade in high school. Steve Biko, Stir It Up by a Tribe Called Quest. I never knew that hip hop could be. I grew up early 2000s, so it was all gangster rap, and I was like, all right, this is hip hop, and it took me too long for somebody to be like, you should really listen to Tribe, and Tribe just changed my entire understanding. I still remember the moment in 10th grade when my friend was like, yeah, you gotta listen to this, and I have the album on vinyl. Like Tribe really means a lot to me, and just feel good hip hop again as I try to think about how to celebrate and also acknowledge their approach was, it just got me. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Another question. Okay, I'm coming to you. Excuse me. All right, you ready? Here we go.
How old you was when you learned how to speak Spanish, and how long it took?
How old was I when I learned to speak Spanish?
Yeah, and how long it took you to learn it?
Yeah. I like to say I can get by. That's the level. If it's from beginner to fluent, I can get by is like maybe right there, right? Conversational. But it's still ongoing for me, right? You know, we know scientifically the easiest time for someone to learn a language is when you're a kid, right? That's the thing that gets me mad sometimes, but you know, kids between the age of being born and being, I think, 3 years old can learn up to 5 languages and not be confused at all. And we try to tell people that being bilingual is bad. I mean, the biggest lie, right? And so I'm like, it's really hard to learn a language as an adult, but I try every time I have opportunity to talk with somebody, and it really just means accepting, like, I'm gonna mess up, and that's gotta be okay, and somebody's probably gonna clown me, but it's still, I'm working on it every day. Yeah. But I'm getting better. I'm a little proud. I guess I want to highlight this. I just had parent-teacher conferences, and I have 2 students that their parents only speak Spanish, and I made it. And I was like, ooh,
all right.
I was like, all right. Okay. That was good. That was a little win.
All right, we got time for one more question.
Why do you love to speak to people in poetry?
Why do I love to speak to poetry? Using poetry? Speak to people using poetry. For me, poetry, specifically spoken word, right, there's a little background, right, I'm teaching high school. I got to make a class from scratch. And so I'm teaching a class called Introduction to Latino Literature and Culture. And so we're going over 500 years of literature for Mexican Americans, Cuban Americans, and Puerto Ricans. And when you look at that history, you see that these people were barred from being published, right? Their stories were barred from being written down. And so poetry became a way to say, okay, there are no restrictions, right? If you write a novel, you gotta write in paragraphs, right? You have to have some kind of trajectory there, whatever it looks like. If you write a play, right, you have to have the actors and all the different kind of like stage directions, right? Poetry, you show up and you could write, you can write in any way that you want, in any form, and that freedom is really important for people of color, I think, for marginalized people who are consistently told, we don't care what you gotta say, right? We don't care what you have to write about, what your lived experience is, and poetry allowed us to say, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it in any way that I want. And now we have, so many publications by some amazing writers of color, marginalized writers across the board.
All right, thank you for those questions. Round of applause, please. Before we bring Dr. Williams up, by show of hands, who is a first-generation college student? First-generation college student. Raise your hand, please. Just like to recognize you. Yeah, thank you. Applause to that, because today is recognized as the first-generation college student day. At this time, I'd like to call up Dr. Williams for the final comments.
Very good. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you all for choosing Odessa College. We would not be who we are without you and your commitment to what we do at Odessa College. So I want to begin by thanking you for choosing us. Whether you're an employee here or a student, we thank you and we appreciate you for taking this journey with us as we all try to be better. I'd like to let's give Noel another big hand. Great job. Great job. I witnessed his talent in Chicago at an Achieving the Dream meeting almost a year ago now, and you saw the amazing talent that he is and that he has and his ability to connect with people. Also, I met him this morning for the first time, and I don't know if he noticed, but some of the questions I asked you this morning, you had that built into your presentation already. And that was neat. It was good connecting with you, getting to know you, and you need to be a part of the Odessa College family and lore as you go forward. We want to be a part of you, and we want you to be a part of us, and we appreciate that. Alex, I'd like to give Alex a big hand also for rocking it today. Not only did Alex take care of the Master of Ceremony pieces, but he also did a lot of other work, and he also took care of Noel today and made sure that everything was good. So we appreciate that. A couple of things, I know it's time for us to go home, but there are a couple of things I want to share with you before we go. And some of the things I learned from Noel this evening. The first I want, and also earlier today, the first is teamwork. If you think about it, he talked about teamwork and how important that is, not only in bomba, but also in hip hop. You can't do it without other people. That's what he talked about. You can't do it effectively without others. And many of you are part of teams. And you need to keep that in mind, that is very important, that you be a good teammate and that you do your part to make the team, whether you're a faculty member, part of a team, or if you're playing a team sport, part of a team. Part of a team. Very important. The second thing I gleaned from the conversation was I believe now that when Coach Q wants to put in a new wrinkle into his offense, he has a new phrase he could use. No, not wepa. Starts with new. And I noticed some of the players, they're ready for that, right? You all, but we hope he doesn't use that, because you know that's not him. But he's thinking about it. Third thing and most important thing you're going to hear from me today, and you heard it from Noel earlier. You are enough. You are enough. You have what it takes. It's already in you. No matter what you're trying to accomplish, you are enough. You can do it. Don't let anyone put you down. Don't let anyone make you feel less than. Don't let anyone make you feel that you can't do it. You are enough. You have what it takes. So don't be dissuaded. Don't be told that you chose Odessa College and therefore you are blank. You are a part of one of the best organizations in the world right here at Odessa College. No one rocks it like we do. No one wins like we do. No one produces great people like we do. You are amazing. You are special. And last but not least, as I close, you are enough. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.